In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. I had a friend ask me this week, why do we celebrate Trinity Sunday? That is a very good question. We have, of course, lots of feasts devoted to Jesus, and we have nearly as many devoted to the saints whose lives were touched by Jesus. And, of course, we have one in particular devoted to the Holy Spirit. But as I mentioned last week, with Christmas, Easter, and now Pentecost, there is a sequence here. There is an unfolding of God himself. The Father, of course, gives the Son at Christmas, and he gives him again in the joy of an empty tomb at Easter. And then at Pentecost, the Father and the Son together give all of you the Holy Spirit. The goal of life is union with God. The Son is the way, and the Holy Spirit is the guide. And so as of last week, God has literally given us everything. So why then Trinity Sunday? Well, if God revealed himself fully to all of you last week, then maybe today is the day for all of us to reveal ourselves fully to him, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Today is the day for all of us to have a seat at the table, to tell them our troubles, and to beg them for mercy. If you don't believe me, just look at the icon on page 2 of your bulletin. If you know anything about icons, you might recall that this is the only icon accepted by the Holy Church. It's Rublev's famous depiction of the Lord's visit with Abraham in Genesis 18, where the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, appeared in the form of these three men. To the left is the Father, with eyes directed forward, watching over everything. To the right is the Holy Spirit, face slightly turned away and head slightly dipped. Almost as though the Holy Spirit is hovering over what's present on the table. It's almost as though it's a little creation where he hovered over the face of the deep. Or a little Annunciation where he hovered over the face of the Virgin. Or a little Pentecost where he hovered over the face of his disciples. And in the middle is the Son, the center of all theology and the center of the Trinity. With his hand outstretched, blessing the food that rests on the table, or as Rublev drew it, blessing the lamb that rests in the chalice. It's a great icon. It's the only one. But there is more to this icon than the Trinity sitting down for a meal together. In fact, what's most beautiful about this icon is what's not there. You'll notice that in the front there is an empty place. It is a place at the table, a place to pull up a chair and have a meal with some friends. It is a place to eat and drink and make merry. It is a place to be healed, a place to be mercied, a place to be loved, a place to be forgiven. But it is also a place to which all of you individually must come. What is most stunning about this icon and about the Feast of the Holy Trinity is that the Holy Trinity is there. They have shown up, they are present, they are ready to make your life a joy. If you will only come and fill the fourth spot. If you will only take your place at his table. And that really is what the green growing season of Pentecost is all about. There's a reason the color goes to green. It's about your growth in the Christian life, of course, but it's also about remembering where and how all of that happens. It happens right here, every Sunday, at 9 a.m. with Bible study and 10 a.m. with the Holy Eucharist. And to not be here, even for reasons that seem very good, vacation and travel, maybe it was a long week at work or you're just too tired. Maybe it was a bad fight with your spouse or you're angry with your kids, or heaven forbid, you think you've heard it all before. While those may seem like very good reasons, sadly they fly in the face of this very day and this very season. And they rub against the very heart of what Jesus is trying to do here. Back to the icon. You'll notice that it's not you sitting there waiting for the three persons of the Trinity to show up. But in the icon, it's the three persons of the Trinity there waiting for all of you to show up. Because this is the only place in all the world, this place, not work, not family, not home, not any place else. This is the only place in all the world where it actually matters eternally if you are present or not. And so as a pastor, I've always been haunted by Luther's very strange words in the Large Catechism. Of course, the Large Catechism is part of the Book of Concord. The Book of Concord is what all of you subscribe to as Lutherans. To your death, it says. And so I've always been haunted by these words of Luther when he explains the third commandment, remember the Sabbath day. Listen to what Luther says. This is straight Luther stuff. Since so much depends on God's word, says Luther, we must realize that God insists upon our strict observance of this commandment, the third commandment, remember the Sabbath day, by keeping it holy. And, says Luther, God will punish all those who despise his word and refuse to hear and learn it, especially at the appointed times, 9 a.m., 10 a.m. And Luther keeps going. Do not regard this as optional or unimportant. This is the command of God, and he will require an accounting of you. That's scary stuff. And one more, just for fun, because it is straight Luther. In the same way, these folks should be chastised who feel that they know it all and need no more instruction. This last one, says Luther, here's a quote. This last one says, that sin of feeling as you need no more instruction is precisely the kind of sin that used to be called a mortal sin. Large Catechism, third commandment. In other words, that kind of sin is the kind of sin that without proper confession and absolution in Holy Eucharist actually can lead us to eternal death. And the sin, of course, was not coming to church. Because the holiness of the Sabbath day always happens within a community. It is very basic stuff. And of course, it's a lot of law. Probably not what you expected on Trinity Sunday. And if it was Pastor Genig and not Pastor Luther, some of you would be on the phone with the bishop later today. That was a joke. Listen up. It's Sunday. But for many of you, it sounds a bit gentler coming from Luther. And so here's what comes from me. God is here today. Full blast. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. He just gave you his name right at the beginning. And you are here again today too, and for that he is very grateful. And if you can make this a habit every Sunday, I know it's not. The burden of getting up early and finding your spot at his table will soon turn to an incomprehensible joy. And when that happens, and that habit becomes contagious, we as a community will flourish beyond imagination. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.